when an RFI gets issued, it's usually by people that are actually doing the work. And they have, and it's very much, again, with the contractual structures we have, before any work is put in place, you want to make sure that you're not held liable for something. So the best way you do it is you issue the RFI, and then you immediately do that because obviously every time you're wasting, not doing work is money spent. And so it typically takes about, I would say, almost 10 days to get a response from the RFI by the general contractor. In some cases, if it doesn't come from the general contractor, then the subcontractors or the trade contractors will then issue that directly to the architect or the owner's representative, whatever the contracting structure looks like. And then from there, the process begins in terms of clarifying the questions that have been asked. I think for us, it is, I would say, as part of the construction process, a necessary evil, unfortunately.
And it makes sense. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about the RFI process with very much enthusiasm, or it's not something that people look forward to. But like you said, with our current models and processes, it's just going to keep happening. But I'd love if you could share a little bit more about, like, why are these happening in the first place, and what kind of problems does that introduce into the construction process?
Yeah. So I think this goes back to just at the highest level, it's disconnected information. We talk about construction being highly collaborative, but then at the end of the day, people are all operating within their silos, within their particular systems, their technologies that they're using. And more often than not, those systems don't talk to one another. And so whether it is working off of outdated drawings out in the field, that can generate an RFI. Uh, there may be a mismatch when you're about to put something in the ground and you see there's something else in the place of that. That generates it. So what RFIs end up doing is they then lead to potential change orders, which then turn into change orders, which ultimately impacts your budget and your schedule. So RFIs are a precursor to something bad that potentially might end up happening. So the goal here is to really minimize those RFIs. And just to give you some context, for every $1 million worth of construction put in place, there are about 10 RFIs that get issued. And this is based on some studies that were done looking at projects from $5 million all the way to 5 billion. And if you just think about a typical large scale project, that can run into almost $1 million in terms of processing fees associated with RFI. So there are tangible impacts to construction companies that are already operating on very slim profit margins.
Yep, not even to mention the wasted time and energy just spent working on the RFI itself. So, like, you have these change orders that come out of it, but I mean, I worked at enough general contractors in my day to understand that time is precious, and having to spend so much time on these very manual processes is a challenge at the very base level for a construction company.
100%, Eric. And I'll just add one other thing. The reason why I think it is so apt now that we as an industry, we look at this is, as what you just said, a lot of wasted effort. And as everyone knows, the labor shortages are not going away. So every minute, hour, day spent on processing, responding to RFIs is time taken away from actually building and trying to drive efficiency. So I think this is going to become more and more critical. How do we eliminate or reduce the proliferation of RFIs?
Yeah, we have this great opportunity right now to be more impactful about how technology can introduce more automation at scale compared to where we've been even, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I think a lot of people, when they hear automation, are sometimes hesitant or concerned because there's always a fear of, this might take my job. And I always reiterate to people that automation and AI and other technology in construction, this is more of an augmentation conversation, to one, to fill that labor gap that you were talking about a minute ago, but also to let people focus on what they do well and let technology do at a scale what a human simply can't do. And so it's more of a matter of, I think our jobs are going to change in how we interact with the technology. It's not a job eliminator. It's a job shifter. But you'd mentioned in past conversations automating waste in your concern about that. And I was hoping you could tell me a little bit more about the difference between what you mean with automating waste, especially in the case of RFIs, compared to automating a process that isn't wasteful just by its very nature.
Sure. So I have this term, and I've spoken about this to other folks at general contractors as well as specialty contractors, to gauge how they reacted to this. And I've actually received a good amount of endorsement around the way I've been thinking about this, which is, you know, there is one aspect of it which is automating wasteful processes. That is something that we do not want to be in the business of doing. What we want to do is to eliminate waste. So the question becomes, what does automating waste mean? And that is, you can create the most perfect, elegant project management system that ensures collaboration between the trade contractors and the general contractors. But and so you'll end up, but still, the fundamental problem of RFIs doesn't go away. All you've done is you've figured out a better way to move documents between different parties. That to me is not really solving the issue at hand. How do you actually eliminate the incidence of RFIs on the job site? That to me is the elimination aspect. So the more RFIs exist, there is more rework, there's more wasted work that gets done, right? So our approach is, how can we solve for that? How can we eliminate the incidence of RFIs? And we're fine eliminating the incidence of RFIs in the field, um, as long as we can also push those up into the planning phase. I think if you can do it there, you can start removing a lot of the wasted effort that happens downstream, which has cost and schedule implications. So for us, it's changing fundamentally the way we build. And I think part of that starts really upstream in design and planning.